Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Leeson and here, today's top stories. The Prime Minister says the lockdown end date is looking good for July 19th, but not everyone is convinced.
And we were all told we would get all these various freedoms back well before now, and the goalposts just continually keep on being moved.
UK chocolate maker Hotel Chocolat buys a beauty product business for just £4. And EU foreign ministers today agreed on another round of sanctions on Belarus, hitting over 70 officials. Boris Johnson says it's looking good to end pandemic restrictions on July 19th. But he hasn't ruled out more lockdowns this winter. NTD's Jane Worrell brings us this report from London.
The Prime Minister says the end of lockdown could now be the 19th of July. Amid calls to ease restrictions sooner, he wouldn't rule out future lockdowns.
Will you rule out the potential for future lockdowns, potentially as early as this winter, because of changes in the pandemic?
I think you can never exclude that there will be some new disease, some new horror that we simply haven't budgeted for or accounted for. But looking at where we are, looking at the efficacy of the vaccines against all variants that we can currently see, so Alpha, Delta, the lot of them, Kappa, I think it's looking good for July the 19th to be that terminus point.
It comes as the government pushed for more people to get jabbed, as they say the cases of the Indian variant are rising. More than 42 million people in the UK have had their first dose of the vaccine. By the weekend, vaccinations had been offered to all over 18s in England. Many young people queued outside London's Olympic Stadium and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London. Looking at those queues over the weekend, it seems like for a lot of people, queuing for the jab is as much about getting your freedoms back or wanting your freedoms back than actually being worried about the virus. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's much more to do with people wanting their freedoms back. But to a certain extent, I think people have been duped. Certainly speaking to my own teenage daughters and their friends, they are wanting to get vaccines because they want to go on holiday, they want to go to concerts. In fact, my own two daughters have decided not to take the vaccine because they don't need it medically and there are too many risks involved. If you look at adults that have had their vaccines, I've had my vaccines, my wife's had hers, and we were all told we would get all these various freedoms back well before now, and the goalposts just continually keep on being moved.
What's your reaction to the delay to the end of the restrictions? This looks like it might be delayed till July the 19th now.
If we compare to last year, where no one was vaccinated, the deaths per day last year, when we were coming out of lockdown, were 10 times what they are now, and the admissions to hospital were 4 times what they are now, and yet it went ahead. So there's no excuse to stop it. It should have gone ahead. The government's goal is to have everyone over 50 offered the jab and as many people vaccinated before July the 19th. Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.
The Prime Minister refuses to guarantee the lifting of travel restrictions for those who received both vaccine doses, saying the priority is to stop the virus coming back. NTD's David English brings us the latest on this.
Boris Johnson on Monday played down reports that foreign travel restrictions may be lifted for those who have received 2 vaccinations. He instead admitted it's going to be a difficult year for travel.
There will be hassle, there will be delays, I'm afraid, because the priority has got to be to keep the country safe.
Pressed by a reporter during a visit to a laboratory in Hertfordshire.
So no guarantees on an exemption from quarantine for travellers who are double jabbed?
We're looking at it, but I want to stress that the emphasis is going to be on making sure that we can protect the country from the virus coming back in.
This comes a day after Justice Secretary Robert Buckland said ministers had not ruled out relaxing restrictions. Travellers coming from amber list countries need to quarantine for 10 days upon return. That's even if you have been vaccinated. The amber list includes most popular summer hotspots such as Spain, Italy and Greece. The first checkpoint review since the traffic light system was introduced is due to take place next Monday.
A well-known UK chocolate maker has bought a beauty product business for a tiny sum of £4. NTD's Neil Woodrow has got the details.
Hotel Chocolat have bought a beauty product business called Rabot 1745 for only £4, less than the price of their cheapest box of chocolates. And it's turned out to be quite a sweet deal. Hotel Chocolat already owned nearly half of the shares in Rabot. It helped set up the business 5 years ago. The idea was to create a range of beauty products inspired by the company's cacao farm in St. Lucia. Rabot's products are said to be popular across the UK as well as in St. Lucia and Japan. Though its products won some awards, the company lost around £400,000 last year. Hotel Chocolat says it is well placed to leverage the value of Rabot's inventory and develop its beauty products. Hotel Chocolat chairman Andrew Jerry is selling his 40% stake in Rabot 1745 to his company Hotel Chocolat for around £3. The other investors are selling their shares for around £1 between them. Jerry is also set to receive repayment of the loan he made to the beauty company of over £740,000, but not in cash. Instead, he'll gain 200,000 more shares in the British chocolatier, increasing his stake by around 40%. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Westminster, London.
Most businesses have suffered during the pandemic, but the aviation industry was hit particularly hard. Pilots are calling for more help from the government. NTD's David English has this report.
The British Airline Pilots Association is calling for clearer guidelines from 10 Downing Street on international travel restrictions. Its spokesperson says the government hasn't published any scientific evidence for taking Portugal off the green list.
Government seems to be doing the hokey-cokey on whether people can have summer holidays and visit friends and families abroad.
Father and son, Dinesh and Amar Lambatia, rely on the airport for work. They have to learn new skills to try to find jobs.
It's very, very scary, and I was very unsure of myself, and my skills were limited to the airport.
Amar estimates 2/3 of the people they know lost their jobs or had to retrain. He says it can be difficult.
Because a lot of the roles outside of Gatwick no longer are office-based, but quite manual customer service-based. And what we're seeing is those jobs are limited in this town.
Spread of the Indian variant has forced the government to do a U-turn on relaxing overseas travel restrictions, leading to flight cancellations and job losses. David English, NTD News.
As part of an overhaul on UK rail travel, flexible season tickets are launched today. NTD's Neil Woodrow brings us more on this from London, Victoria.
Train passengers in England can buy flexible season tickets from Monday. This is the first step in major railway reforms announced last month. The flexible tickets can be a smart card or barcode ticket. They will allow travel on any 8 days in a 28-day period between two named stations. Department for Transport says it offers savings for people who travel 2 or 3 days a week. For example, commuters travelling 2 days a week between Woking and London can save £260 a year compared with the cost of daily tickets. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says flexible tickets give greater freedom and choice about how we travel, simpler ticketing and a fairer fare. The flexible season tickets only cover standard class and can be used from June 28th. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says his government will pardon 9 jailed Catalan separatist leaders as a first step towards ending the region's political conflict. NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us this report.
On Monday, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced that the Spanish cabinet will approve pardons for 9 jailed Catalan leaders.
Y eso es lo que el gobierno de España ha decidido.
And that is what the government of Spain has decided, to face the problem and seek harmony. So tomorrow, thinking in the constitutional spirit of harmony, I will propose to the cabinet meeting to concede pardon to the 9 people convicted in the process trial who are in prison today.
As he spoke in Barcelona's Opera House, the Prime Minister was heckled by a Catalan separatist. the protester was seen waving Catalan's yellow and red flag and shouting independence is the only solution. He was immediately escorted out by security. Outside the Opera House, several hundred protesters demanded independence.
Pardons are a small thing. The truth is that they've taken our freedom of speech at all levels. We have our legitimate government in prison or in exile, and this is a very serious thing in a democracy.
In October 2017, leaders of the wealthy region of Catalonia held a secession referendum and declared independence from Spain. 12 separatist leaders were convicted of sedition, and 9 of them were handed lengthy prison terms. Sanchez aims to ease tensions in the region and kickstart negotiations between the central government and the Catalan authorities. Catalonia's local leader says the pardons are a welcome first gesture, but demanded an amnesty for all those involved in the referendum campaign 4 years ago. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
EU foreign ministers today approved a fresh set of sanctions against Belarusian officials. The bloc is also preparing more measures aimed at hurting the country's economy. NTD's Joy Duguid has the details.
The European Union on Monday imposed additional sanctions on Belarus.
We have adopted today, with respect to Belarus, the largest package of sanctions, listing 86 individuals and entities. These measures were coordinated also with Canada, UK and US.
EU foreign ministers agreed to hit transport, defence and air traffic officials with travel bans and asset freezes. This fourth round of sanctions are an attempt to put more pressure on President Alexander Lukashenko. It's over the forced landing of a Ryanair passenger plane in Minsk last month and the arrest of a dissident journalist. Borrell says EU leaders will make a decision over economic sanctions later this week. The measures are likely to include action against the export of potash, a common fertiliser ingredient, and petroleum products, among others. Luxembourg's foreign minister says it was up to the EU to show that state terror has no place in the 21st century. Also on Monday, the UN Human Rights Commissioner decried the situation in the Eastern European country.
The situation in Belarus also continues to deteriorate. We continue to receive numerous allegations of arbitrary arrests and detentions, torture and ill treatment.
She said she regrets Minsk's decision to discontinue her officer's senior advisor in Minsk. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
Still to come, meet a Syrian boxer who's gearing up to compete at the Tokyo Olympics as part of the international refugee team. That and more when we return.